A prophecy about the sinking of the Titanic 14 years before it happened. A book written in 1898, hence 14 years before the sinking of the Titanic, is considered by many to be prophetic. It was written by Morgan Robertson and titled Futility. The premise of the novel is the wreck of a ship in the Atlantic Ocean after a collision with an iceberg. So, the rationalist will ask, the story of a ship that sinks because it encounters ice in the North Atlantic is not so original. It may be so. However, a careful look at the elements of the book makes an impression, if nothing else, since the similarities between the fiction and reality are many. And in the table we've collected the real facts of the Titanic wrecked, and it was as Robertson describes in his novel 14 years ago, data concerning the technical characteristics of the two ships and the details of the two wrecks. The conclusion is yours to make. Titanic, real shipwreck, futility, novel shipwreck. Ship named Titanic, Titan, dated 1912. 1898, 14 years before the wreck, route from England to Southampton to America, New York, and futility was going from America to England, Liverpool. Number of trips, maiden trip for Titanic, third trip for futility. Passengers on Titanic, 2,200, futility 2,000. Survivors, about 700 from Titanic, 13 from futility. Lifeboats, 20 on Titanic, 24 on futility. Shipwreck months, April on both ships. Time of wreck, Titanic, 2340, that's almost midnight, and 24 hours, 400 hours futility. You can see even the time is almost the same. Causes of shipwreck, a collision with an iceberg. B, lack of lifeboats. C, high speed, a collision with an iceberg. D, lack of lifeboats. Lack of lifeboats in Titanic. High speed collision with iceberg for Titanic. And futility, again, lack of lifeboats, high speed. Length of the ship of the Titanic, 882, 800 for futility. Ship weight, 46 million some odd, and 46,000 for Titanic, 45,000 for futility. Horsepower, 45,000 for Titanic, 40,000 for futility. Displacement, 66,000 for Titanic, 45 for futility. Propellers, 3 on each ship. So is this a coincidence or a conspiracy? Careful studying the table of similarities between the book Futility, written in 1898, and the wreck of the Titanic, which took place in 1912, the question that arises is reasonable. Is it mere coincidence, prophecy, or confirmation of the various conspiracy theories? Could it be that this novel inspired some people to stage the biggest shipwreck in history? Was it a coincidence? What do you think? The case of the prophetic book has occupied hundreds of researchers, authors, analysts, journalists, documentarians, and simple lovers of the search, those who have from time to time expressed their wariness and distrust of the author's prophetic abilities have two main arguments. One, the existence of a photograph showing the cover of Robertson's book with a publication date of 1912, the year the Titanic sank. It is likely that the author reprinted his book soon after the wreck and added the information, they say. Two, the fact that the construction of the Titanic was not an open secret and had occupied the press for the time many years before it set out on its maiden voyage. So Robertson took the technical features that had been published, turned them into a novel, and was just lucky in terms of one or two elements that happened to be the same in the development of the story. So the above examples could be very convincing if they were not both shot down by followers of the prophecy, quote-unquote. What do the followers of the prophecy say? As for the cover of the book, which mentions 1912 as the year of publication, it's genuine, they say, but it is the second circulation of the book, and even with a slightly different title. Specifically, when the Titanic shipwreck occurred in April 1912, it was naturally natural that the book Futility was considered prophetic, since it had described the event with incredible accuracy 14 years before. For this reason, the novella was re-released under the title Futility, the Wreck of the Titan, without changing the element from the original version. As for the construction plans of the Titanic, they may have been leaked to the press at the time, but it was in 1909 when construction began. Furthermore, even as an idea, the construction of the ship was created in 1907. Since Robertson's novel was written in 1898, it's still mathematically impossible for the author to steal elements from the builder of the Titanic. The possible explanations. So the question that arises is, how is it possible that someone predicted the biggest shipwreck of all times 14 years before it happened? There are many possible answers. Everyone chooses the one that best suits their mind, culture, and perception. Explanation 1. Yes, it's possible that the author of the book prophesied the sinking of the Titanic. Additions that appear before major disasters are not uncommon, although this is not contested. Explanation 2. It's possible that Robertson wrote a story completely by accident that a few years ago came true. Coincidences, even in their extreme form, exist in our lives. And explanation 3. The book is proof of one of the biggest conspiracies of all time, if we accept that the Titanic sank as a result of an organized plan. Then Robertson's book may have been a source of inspiration for those who wanted to cause the tragedy. In this case, it was life that copied fiction. This I've translated from a Greek article. Let's remember that shipping law has changed drastically since that very terrible event. And that one of the things that changed in that law is that there are enough lifeboats to save all the passengers and crew on board each ship. Now, I've been on very many ships and going towards the Greek islands. And one thing I noticed is that when the lifeboats were painted to be maintained, okay, they painted over the screws and the bolts that hold the chains that hold the lifeboats up, and it's totally impossible for those lifeboats to be unstuck from that hardened paint to be lowered into the waters. And that's the reality of what is going on the ships traveling our seas. I doubt that if that was the case for rescuing people on those lifeboats would be able to be lowered into the waters. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.